Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
Is it really true? Is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show on Hamilton Radio. Guys, everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass, guys, because 32 years ago, I was a dumbass. But 32 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. Yes, the word ass is in the Bible. At least 40 times it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this, guys. We've all had the roughest few years of our lives all over the world, right? Not just here. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't make it, and a lot through addiction, including friends and family members of mine. And I want to say to everyone that you all need to know that someone is listening. All my services to you are free. I'm a nutritional health coach, and I'm also a recovery coach. So please, please reach out. If you think my book can help someone, because I do, you can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing. And guys, if you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book, please, please reach out to me about that as well. You can go to my website, www.geripetito.com. All my pages are there. You could even order the book from there. And you can go to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel and please subscribe. We got a lot of cool things happening. One last thing I want to plug is what we're doing at Hamilton Radio now. One of the owners and our producer, Ruben, he's going to be doing audio books. He's doing mine as we speak. Okay, so if anyone is interested in that, please reach out. You can reach out to me. All right, and my email is www.jdgeri@aol.com. So guys, you know I always bring it, right? Well, honey, today I am bringing it. You know, I grew up in Long Island City, New York. I also have officers, policemen. The chief of police was a member of my family in my town here in New Jersey. Okay, so I love cops. That's right. Thank them all for their service every day. So having said that, I love cops. I love actors. I love music. I love it all, okay? I have with me an incredible, incredible guest. First of all, I want to introduce him, but I want him to say hello to everyone out there. Joe Cirillo, please say hello.
Hi, everyone. Joe Cirillo here.
So his book is ridiculously cool, okay? An offer I couldn't refuse. Imagine an Italian not liking that title, okay? Come on. But what's really cool about him is he went from NYPD to Hollywood. He has worked with and talked to and known everyone under the sun. This book is off the charts incredible, and I am honored to have you with me here today, so thank you so much.
It's my honor to be with you.
So Joe, give us a little, let's go back a little bit in time, because I do want to talk about you being an officer. You wrote something in your book that really touched my heart. You said, as a cop, you realized how important it was to know what that person's shoes were like, to walk into that person's shoes. You treated everyone with respect. You were an incredible cop, okay?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your journey with NYPD first and what made you that beautiful cop.
Well, I actually went on, we called it a police force then, but now it's the police service. But I went into the department in 1957.
Okay.
I was actually in Korea in the Korean War. And when I got out of the service, I took the test for the NYPD. I passed. I always wanted to help people, and that's one of the big things. Even today, I'll try to help anybody like you. You're trying to help addicts and so on. I'm the same way. And even in the police department, when I was working as a cop, I hardly gave any summonses out because I always felt sorry for people. You know, I didn't want to give out summonses, but I did. I had to. So, but I was very nice about it. And many, many times I let them go. Anybody that had a problem, they would come up to me and I'd help them. I always tried to help them. I made arrests, of course, when they're bad people and they do something wrong and they have to be locked up. I had to do that. But in my heart, I treated them like they were my brothers or sisters. And whenever I went to court with them, I was always a gentleman. I didn't say anything derogatory against them. I always helped in any way I can. So, but that's me. I'm that way with everyone.
I need to share something with you that's going to probably bring tears to your eyes. It was because of an officer that I changed my life. And this is what happened quickly, I'll tell you. So I was almost 30 years old or so, and I was in the middle of Trenton with a girlfriend of mine copping heroin. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had beauty salons, so I made way too much money for being so young. It wasn't a good thing, trust me. And I had a black and gold Eldorado Cadillac with Elvis license plates, but Elvis license plates. So I always kid and say Elvis even helped save my life. The reason is it was a very flashy car. And one of my clients, I had very prestigious clients in my beauty salons, and one was the municipal court judge in my township. And I used to meet her, she's still in my life, and I used to meet her for lunch in the courthouse. Well, this unmarked police car was following me and my friend and recognized my plates and my car. And waited till our drug dealer didn't have the drugs, so he had to get him in the back of my car. We had to go 2 blocks, 1 o'clock in the morning in Trenton, New Jersey. And he went out, got the 10 bags of dope, came back in my car. He pulled us over. He had already called this woman, I don't want to say her name, okay? And he came to my car and he said, Jerry, Judge so-and-so said, get this guy out of your car and go home and get some rest and get some help. And you know what, Joe? That was it. I threw everybody out, threw the drugs out, and I put myself into rehab. But I'm telling you that to say this. It was because of that officer, because he could have easily arrested all of us. And he chose to call her instead. And from that moment on, I always loved cops, but I had even more of a love for them. So I want to thank you for all of everything you've done, your service everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what was
I
it?
had an incident.
Tell us.
It's in the book. I don't know if you got
Okay.
if you were referring to that, where I had arrested this black man, a black young man. And when we were in court, the judge asked him, he says, you know, were you alone doing this? He says, no, the guy's in the court with me. So the judge turned around and said to me, go arrest that man. And I had to go in court and pick up this young man who was now going to be my prisoner. And I had to take him to the 5th precinct, which was like 5 or 6 blocks away in Chinatown.
Okay.
And this is at lunchtime, so you can imagine the crowds. When I got him there, I took him in the back. I wanted to handcuff him, and he started to cry and said, please, please don't handcuff me. Please, I'll be good. Just trust me. I'll go with you. I said, you know, if you run away, I'm going to have to shoot you. He says, I promise you I won't. And I did that. I walked with him like we were buddies. We got into the station house, and the sergeant said, how come this man is not handcuffed? And I says, oh, I took them off before I came in. But that guy wrote me a letter like you wouldn't believe. I mean, of how I treated him. So that was a big thing. It's in my book.
That's beautiful. So
Yes.
I want to ask you something. We all know what's happening today with the police force and all that.
Yes, yes.
Tell us something inspiring about how it used to be, with not just yourself, just working in that environment.
No, years ago, I think the cops had more, people had more respect for police officers.
Yep.
You know, and then we used to be on, you know, on foot, so we got to know everybody on our beat, on our post. So we became friendly with everybody. So they trusted us, and of course we trusted them. If I had a problem, they would help me. They helped me. So that was the rapport between the people and the cop. Today it's not like that. Today it's a totally different thing. There are not many street cops anymore. And today they work in pairs. They're in the radio car. They're in the subways. They're all over the place. It's totally different. There's not a rapport with the street person, with everybody on the block.
Right.
But I had a lot of friends. They loved me. They called me Joe the Cop.
I love
So
it.
I had a great rapport with all the people that lived on my beat.
That's
and one
beautiful.
of them was, he was the director of the School of Visual Arts.
So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the School of Visual Arts. Everyone,
Yes.
SVA, East 23rd Street in New York, in Manhattan. Okay, the Village, really, it was the Village. I went to that school in 1979. Tell everyone the year you went to that school, please.
I believe it was in 1958. I got out of I went to college prior to going into the service. And when I left service, instead of going back to college, I went to what was called the Cartoonist and Illustrator School on 23rd and First Avenue. And being I won the art medal in junior high school, I won the art medal in high school, so I figured, well, I might as well go through this with my career in art. So I did go to that school, which became the School of Visual Arts.
I met a gentleman, he's an entertainer from back in the day, and we all had lunch together this past week, and he went to School of Visual Arts in 1964. I was 3. So I told him about you, and we were swapping stories, and I was like, this is just amazing for me. I visited the school a few years ago, and it's still there. It looks very
Yes.
different, and everything's graphic, everything's computer, That made me sad, but it is what it is,
Yes, of course.
So, but I loved sharing stories with you, especially about our naked models, okay? That was pretty cool.
From that, I got a tremendous job in the police department. At one time, and I think it was in 1958 or so, they were going to try this new thing about, composite drawings of criminals, which you see in the newspaper today,
Yes.
drawings of people
Yes.
that, commit crimes. And I was called down to the BCI, Bureau of Criminal Identification. It was with an inspector, and he said, we're going to try something new. And he explained what he wanted me to do, which I was one of the very first to start doing these composite drawings.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was simple. It was simple for me. So then after being there for a couple of weeks, he says, we are forming the unit. He says, I want you to be part of it. And I turned him down.
Oh, no.
Because I want to get back.
Do you
But
regret
in the
it?
long run, it paid off. It
Do you
paid off for me.
regret turning him down, or are you good with that decision?
No. What happened was actually all the fellas that went in after me that became the artists, they in turn became bosses because, they was very inactive. So they kept studying and studying and they became bosses. I went back to my precinct. I ended up meeting Mike Nichols and I became an actor. So,
That's so
in the long
cool.
run, I think I did the better part of all of it.
I would like the producer to come out here and hold your book up to the camera for us. Ruben, thank you. Because, you went from NYPD to Hollywood. So
Yes.
I want to ask you one more question about NYPD, and then we're going to get to how you
All
got to
right.
Hollywood. But I want the
Yes,
producer to hold this book up for everyone. Okay, I love this, and this is a young Joe. Show
Oh, yeah.
everyone. Show
That's
everyone.
going back.
Okay?
Yeah, that's me.
And then you
Actually,
have
that's
to.
I can tell you when that photo was taken. That's taken in 1979 in Hollywood when I was working with the Kojak series.
Okay, turn the book around. Turn the book around. There it is. Telly Savalas, baby.
And there's Telly Savalas.
All right, very
Yeah,
cool.
which Telly Savalas eventually became my boss. I was his right-hand man.
That's
traveled
so
all over with
funny.
him.
All right, let me have the
Yes.
book. Thank you, Ruben. Very cool.
Thank you, Ruben.
So, all right, one more thing about you working in the NYPD, and then we're going to talk about your transition to Hollywood, okay?
Right.
So, and I'm back then. I have to say that, right? Back then. So, let me ask you something. Would you say that? Because okay, I'm just going to say it. We didn't have technology back then, so now everything is out there, right? We see.
Yes, yes.
Did this stuff that goes on today go on back then, but we just didn't know about it?
Everything that goes on today was done in those days, believe me.
Okay.
When I first went into my precinct, it was one of the worst precincts in the city.
Which one was that again?
The 20th precinct on the
Okay.
Upper West Side.
Okay.
West 84th Street was so bad that they had in one block from Columbus Avenue to Amsterdam Avenue, they had 4 police officers working in the block, 2 on Columbus and 2 on Amsterdam. So you had a total of 8 cops in one block. That's how bad it was in those days. So,
Okay.
yeah, so everything was bad. Big difference.
Yep.
We the radio cars we had nothing like today. We only had a radio. We had the turret light on top. We didn't have police vests. We didn't have phones. We had to go to a call box to make calls. If we had a problem on the street, we'd have to bang our nightstick on the street 3 or 4 times and hope that the cop at the next post would hear it so they could come and help us. We had nothing. All the equipment was the gun, the bullets on the side, the handcuff, and that was it. No vest, no phone, nothing like today.
Okay. Now, all right. So everything that goes on today, you said went on back then, but was the difference that they didn't just want to kill the cops so quickly like they do today? Like, did you feel safer then?
No, in fact, when I was a cop, they were killing cops. They were executing them.
I didn't know
There's so
that.
many cops that were killed.
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
in the 70s. Oh, wow, 60s, 70s. That's what they were killing cops. Yes.
Okay.
I knew a couple of cops that were killed, personal friends.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right, well, thank you for sharing all that. Because
Right.
I've always wanted to talk to someone who knew firsthand.
Yes,
So thank
definitely.
you.
Big difference with today.
Okay,
We had nothing. The equipment was nothing like it is today.
okay, well,
And
thank you.
but like I said, there was more respect for a cop in
Yes.
those days for some reason. Yes.
Okay, so now, let's talk about your transition from NYPD to Hollywood. Come on.
Okay. Okay. What happened was I was assigned to the Museum of Natural History for 7.5 years. It was a great job.
Oh, I went
Right.
there. What years?
I was there in the 60s
Oh,
up
no.
until 1970, around 74.
Well, we
Yeah.
went there when we were in grammar school, so,
You probably saw the cop. That was me. Joe the cop in the museum.
oh, okay, so go ahead.
Well, anyway, right across the street from the museum is the Beersford Apartments. In that building, a lot of movie stars lived. You know, Stephen Eady lived there. Abe Burrows was a producer. Phil Silvers, Red Buttons,
Oh.
Mike Nichols, Alan Funt.
Yeah.
And I got to be friends with all of them. And especially Mike Nichols, who was a big producer, Broadway director. He directed many big films. And one day when I was in his office, we did each other favors, you know. And one day when I was in his office, he says, "How would you like to be in the movies?" I said, "I love it, but I'm not an actor." He says, "Don't worry, we'll make you one." And he got me an interview at Paramount Pictures.
But
I had to
wait,
go down.
don't go so quick. Hold on. He had to have seen something in you. What
Well,
did
we
he
were
see?
friends. I guess he knew my
Your quirky personality.
Yeah, yeah. And at that time, I was writing a lot of songs, and
Okay.
I was more into music then.
Okay.
I was more into music, and I was writing a little bit, and he knew of that. But I guess that's the reason he said, "Well, maybe it'd be good in movies." That's
Okay.
possibly the reason. But anyway, he sent me. I got an audition. It wasn't really an audition. It was really an interview at Paramount Pictures, and I spoke to this woman Her last name was Eastman. I'm unsure of her first name. But anyway, when she interviewed me, she said, "You're a cop. What makes you think you can act?" I said, "A cop." I said, "We're the best actors in the world. We're
Oh my God.
doctors, we're lawyers, we're this." She said, "You're right." And then they gave me a small spot, a small thing in The Godfather. So I started with The Godfather,
Tell everyone
and
the
I
small
got my.
spot. No, come on. Tell everyone the spot you were in The Godfather.
I was at the wedding scene, but here's the best part. I my scene with dialogue was not in the movie. They took it out. They took it out. You'll see me. I'm in certain scenes, but my scene, my speaking part, is not in the movie. But here's the best part.
Okay.
Since 1973, I get residuals, checks from Godfather because it's shown a lot. I've been getting checks almost every month since 1973, and I'm still getting them today.
That is so cool. I love that. I got to tell my brother because he thinks he's the Don, okay? Anthony Petito, okay?
Yeah,
I
I
love
still
that.
get checks.
That's cool.
And of course, I worked in the Ghostbusters where those checks are real good because that's always being shown. So I get checks. All the movies that I did, I get checks.
Tell us a handful of the movies. Come on. Godfather,
Well, that's
Ghostbusters.
Godfather, Splash,
Yep.
Ghostbusters. I worked in the Kojak series.
Yep.
I did a lot of Kojak. Then I co-starred with Joe Don Baker in a series called Eyeshine, where I co-starred, which was great. But here's the strangest thing of all. With all that I've done in the movies, the people all remember me from a little sentence practically in Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Where I told the guy, you do your job, pencil neck. Don't tell me how to do mine. That, for some reason, I'm a legend in Europe, all over. They keep sending me, they asking for photos, they're asking about my book. So I'm noted for that. It's just a small line.
I interviewed the guy from, was it The Godfather or the other one? Leave the gun, take the cannolis.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I interviewed him, okay? Paulie.
Well,
Paulie.
that was the one who played Clemenza. I think he actually died.
Paulie.
In the same scene.
Yeah, Paulie.
Yes.
Yeah, leave
Yeah.
the gun. Yeah, and that was cool too because that scene, leave the gun, take the cannolis. Everyone knows it.
Right. That's a famous line in the
Right.
show.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So my line, I can't believe it that everyone remembers that. They tell me I'm a legend. A legend, what? For one stupid line.
No, but that's
It was
cool.
great.
That's cool.
But I still get residuals from that.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah, and a lot of movies that I'm in that I get checks from Europe. I get checks, not from Europe, but
Yeah.
a lot of the movies, and especially Kojak and shows that I did are shown in Germany, Italy,
Yes.
and I get checks from that. They're minimal though. They're very small, not compared to the ones in the States.
Who cares?
But
It's great.
But they keep coming. I'm
so great.
really grateful for that. Yes, yes.
Okay, so you're not gonna be able to answer this question probably like pinpoint one person because it's gonna be a hard thing to answer. But is there anyone, and maybe a couple, 2 or 3, actors out there that really truly made an impact on you as an actor?
Yes. Tully was the greatest. Tully Savalas, number one. Of course, he was the greatest. The one that I sort of really went after was Anthony Quinn. I liked the way he acted. I was a big fan of his. I did meet him, but
Okay.
I did a scene in a movie with him. But I always tried to act like him. In fact, he got me a big role once. I actually, there was a film that they were shooting in the Carolinas, and I think it was Dana Andrews, Lyle Beddick. There were big stars that were supposed to be in it, and they didn't work in it. I think one day saying he was a drunk or something. So they were auditioning people for that role. So I went up there and they gave me the sides, and I said, I'm not going to get this. They're looking for a big star. So when I went in, I thought of Anthony Quinn. So I went in, I started reading and screaming and yelling. I banged on the desk and it said, "Oh my God, you scared the crap out of me." And I got the role. I got the lead role from that just by being like Anthony Quinn.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So Anthony Quinn, I like as far as an actor. But Telly was a natural act. I
Oh.
mean, he's the greatest.
Yeah.
And of course, I knew Sinatra. I knew a lot
I
of
know. I
people.
saw in your book Frank Sinatra. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is
they're all in
crazy.
there. Yes, that's
They're
right.
all in
That's
there.
right.
All
Yeah.
right. So now let me ask you about music. Okay, since you
Yes.
talked about music as well.
Okay.
So now,
Yes.
I have a poem that I had written about music, and at the end it says, music is a must for you to keep your
Yes.
joy, especially if it's Elvis, baby, because Elvis is my boy. So
Oh, yeah.
tell me how much you loved Elvis, and then we'll talk about who made
Oh,
an impact on you in the Elvis world. I
I
mean, in the
love
music
that
world.
Elvis also.
Okay.
Uh, my girlfriend, forget about it. She loves him.
Forget about it.
That's her favorite. I have a girlfriend, yes.
That's beautiful. I thought
Anyway.
I don't have a chance then. All right.
Anyway, no, I used to write a lot of actually poems and lyrics and so
Okay.
on. Then I hooked up with someone and I got a composer and we recorded something which was supposed to be recorded by a big star. And I was up in their office. This was Casablanca Records. And anyway, I was there. They played the song. The guy says, wow, we got a guy to sing this. So I was happy. But what happened, the guy eventually never did it because he got arrested and they never did the song.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, but that was the one time I almost had a big hit. But what I did, I hooked up with a minister up in Chappaqua, New York.
Okay.
And together we wrote a musical. You remember the movie Marty?
Yes.
Marty in 1955 was the Academy Award winner with Ernest Borgnine winning the Academy Award, plus the movie won the Best Picture. And he and I wrote that into a musical.
Oh my
and I came up with
gosh.
25, 30 songs, which we still have. But what happened, we gave it to a producer who loved it. And he said that the words that killed us, he says, did you get the rights from Patty Chayefsky? And we looked at each other and we never thought of that. We just did it on our own.
Oh no.
And then we couldn't get it from Patty. Patty Chayefsky, we had people approach him. I even had Mike Nichols' office approach him. And he said, no, it was an Academy Award winner. He said if it went to Broadway, it was a flop. They'd remember it as a flop. So it never happened. I had my next door neighbor, and I met Patty then, prior to this, many years prior. His first cousin was Patty Chayefsky. He introduced me to him years before I was writing. And he said, don't worry, I'll take him to lunch and I'll talk about it. He took him to lunch, talked about it, and he gave me bad news. He said he doesn't want to do it. Anyway,
in his defense though, his logic made sense. I
Yes,
get
of
that.
course.
But now go ahead, continue. When he passed away.
And when he passed, we tried it with his wife, and she said she was honoring her husband.
Okay.
So we dropped it.
All right.
In the meantime, and I read in the papers that it was going to be a musical, with Jason Alexander playing Marty. I said, what? It eventually did become a musical, and it wasn't him. It was someone else. I forget his name, James McGuire or something. He did it, and it was a flop.
Okay. So,
But
all
I
right.
still have it. I have my version.
Okay. God rest his soul. Okay. That's
Yes,
beautiful.
yes.
So now, all right. So now take us into a little bit more of the depths of Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to be with these superstars. Tell us what it was like to have that experience from your mouth.
Okay, from my mouth. When I was a little boy, I would secrete pennies in my pocket, playing bankers and brokers or flipping pennies to make money. And when I had enough of the movies, I used to say, I'm broke, and I'd run to the movies. So I was always in the movies. I always wanted to, I loved Hollywood. And here I am now, I'm a cop, and now I'm in Hollywood. So you can imagine what that was like. And I'm with the biggest stars in Hollywood. And I worked with them. I worked with some of them, some I didn't work with, but I later started my own security company.
Okay.
And how that came about was I was co-starring in a series which was eventually being canceled. And I was living in California. My wife was living in New York. And I called my wife and said, they're canceling the series. She said, thank God you're coming home. All right. Meanwhile, in the last week or so of the shoot, the casting director from Universal came up and he said, "I want to see Joe Cirillo." And I'm me. You got Joe Don Baker, you got all the stars of the show. And he comes over to me and he says, "I've got 2 pilots for you." Pilots. And Joe Don Baker says, "Joe, this is your big break." And everybody's telling me the big break. I said, "No, I told my wife I'm going home." And he says, "No, you got to take this." I says, "Well, let me go call my wife." So I got on the phone. I called my wife and I told her, I says, "Honey, they got 2 pilots for me. So I don't know if I'm coming home." Dead silence. And I hear, "You come home or else." Click. And I went home. I went home and I started my own security company with a couple of other police officers.
Okay.
And that's where I met all the big stars. Sinatra, we had Sinatra as an account. Any movie that came to New York, I had the security for. And whenever it was a big star, they always said, "Joe, you're going to be with that star." So I always did that. I always was the big star.
That is cool.
And many times, like for instance, I was with Jackie Gleason when he did Izzy and Mo. I was with him 3 days, and I said, "I got to get back to the office," So I left. The producers called me up and they said, "Joe, you got to go back. Jackie wants you." And I had to stay with him. And this happened many times that I had to stay with the stars.
Hold on. I got to ask you. So I was a big Jackie Gleason fan. Come on. Everybody
great.
has to hear this. Tell us a little bit
Amazing
about
man.
him. Okay.
Amazing. The guy was incredible. I got along great with him, but there was one scene we were doing, and now another big star, Jackie Cooper,
Oh, come on.
from my childhood, he was directing the movie. And we were down on Bleecker Street because it was a period piece. It was like in the 1920s,
Okay.
speakeasy time.
Okay.
Anyway, scene was for Jackie Gleason to start on one street and walk the whole block and get to this door of the speakeasy and knock 3 times. And there was a soundtrack of music, and he had to walk all the way down, and the last soundtrack of the 3 beats of the drum when he knocked on the door. So Jackie Cooper said, "Let's rehearse it." And Jackie Gleason said, "No, we shoot it." He says, "Shoot it?" He says, look at all these people." He says, "We shoot it." He says, "Okay." Started the soundtrack. He started walking down the street, pat a boy on the head, tipped his hat to a woman, spun around, did this, got to that door, boom, boom, boom. 1 shot, got the scene.
I love that.
Amazing.
So,
amazing.
so wait, I have to say something. I thank you for sharing that with me because I love that story because everybody always says that, when we see things and we watch movies and all this kind of stuff, we don't think that that one little scene could have been 20 takes or 30 takes, right? So I'm saying to myself, well, why? All you got to do, knock, knock, knock. So I'm so happy you told me that because it is possible, guys.
Oh yeah, he was incredible.
That's
and
amazing.
He was very particular about his clothing. Everything had to be just so. And one thing that I'll never forget, this was like incredible. We were doing the same movie. We were up in the wave up in the Bronx. It was a whole area with, a secluded area in the park, a big open park. And his camper was there, no one near us. And there's 2 Adirondack chairs, and Jackie's sitting in one, and Art Connie's in the other. And they're reminiscing, they're having a cup of tea or whatever, and they're reminiscing about, you remember when we did this? They're talking about the honeymoons.
Oh.
Remember when we did? I'm privy to all this, listening.
I love it.
But I noticed that every few seconds he'd finish his cigarette, he'd put his hand up, and his valet would come and put a cigarette in his hand. He smoked that. As soon as he finished, again with the cigarette. This went on hours.
Whoa.
And so when this was all over, I asked his valet, I says, "What does he smoke? How much?" He says he smokes about 6 cartons a day. And I think that's what killed him with his heart.
How old was he when he...
Big, heavy smoker.
Wait, how old was he when he died?
Oh, I don't remember his
Okay.
age, but I mean, he was up there, but still, I think that had something to do with it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, he was a very heavy smoker, very heavy.
Wow. So now...
He was a very nice guy. I got along great with him.
So now, let's talk about your book journey. Okay?
Okay.
So, when did you decide you wanted to write this book?
Well, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the public, I'm giving you stories. So this is what happened whenever I was with a group of people. They say, Joe, you and Holly, tell us about this, tell us about that. And then they say, you should write a book, you should
Okay.
write a book. So I says, well, I got to do this. So I started, and it took me a while, only because I put it down and started again. But eventually I got through it.
How
My
long
son
is a
helped.
while? Tell me.
Yeah, I'd say a couple of months, that's all.
That's
You
not
know.
a while. I just
No, I know what I'm saying.
Yes.
In between, I'd stop it and wait, but I'd
Right.
take about 2 months of actually typing it in and so on.
I
And
just
then what
interviewed. I
did-
just interviewed Dan Regan. Excuse me, and
Yeah.
his books are about rock and roll. Okay, the
Yeah.
70s, 80s, 90s, like that. He wrote
Right.
too. You know how long it took him? We were cracking up. It took him 20 something years. He kept putting it down. So you're talking about
No,
a
I
few
know.
months.
No, but it was simple. I'm talking about myself, so I know everything that had to go
That's great.
into it. And then when I had it finished, I gave it to my son who's here, and he went through it, and actually he's the one that got it published for me.
Okay.
He did a lot, believe me.
Okay.
And
What
I
year
love
did you
him for that.
publish it? What year was this published?
About 2 years ago, I'd
Okay,
say.
so-
Yeah, about
All right. So
yeah,
we have plenty of time.
yeah.
I want you to take the mic, and I want you to tell everyone, first of all, before we forget, how they can get your book
Okay.
with everything attached to it, if you have a website, whatever. Let's do that first now.
Okay. Well, actually, you can go on Amazon or Kindle and just an offer I couldn't refuse by Joe Cirillo from NYPD Hollywood, and just go to either Kindle or Amazon, and you can purchase it that way. Yeah.
The back page of you look like the guy from Starsky and Hutch. Have you been told that before?
No, they wanted, actually, when I was in Hollywood, they wanted me to double him, was Eric Estrada.
That's what I'm talking about. So then you
Oh,
have
is that-
heard.
oh, I'm
yes,
sorry.
then you heard that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. They
Starsky
wanted me
and
to
Hutch.
double him.
Yes, that's him.
I would see that's like a stand-in job. I was working as an actor.
Okay, but that's
I
cool. You
didn't
look
wanna
like
do
him.
that.
All right, but you look like
Yes,
him.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's
what
great.
Eric Estrada. Yes,
That's great.
Yes.
So now,
Yes, so
all right, so now I want you to have the mic, and I want you to share what, I don't want you to get off this interview and say, I forgot to say this, or I forgot to say that. I want you to have the mic now. I want you to share whatever it is that you had in your mind you wanted to talk about.
well, I've been with so many actors, so usually people ask me
Oh, okay.
about certain actors.
Okay.
Well, we had Frank Sinatra. I'll tell you about Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
I was a big Frank Sinatra fan, a big one. I'm growing up. I love his songs and everything. And this was while I was a police officer. A company had the account. They had Sinatra as their account, who stayed at the Waldorf Astoria. And I knew one of the guys. He was a friend of mine. He says, Joe, you want to do security? I said, I love it. I love it. So I actually did the security at the Waldorf. And I remember I was doing a late tour from 12 to 8. I relieved one guy. And here I am, I'm waiting, I'm so patiently waiting. And I could see, on the slit under the door, I could see him pacing, and I could hear him practicing. He had his piano player. He'd be practicing. And I'm dying to see him. And all night long, I stayed up. I had to stay up anyway. But I'm waiting patiently. And about 7 o'clock in the morning, the door opens. He leans out, gets the newspaper, and he goes, "Come on in, kid." And I was like, they could have played the Hallelujah chorus like God arrived.
Oh my gosh.
That's the fan I was. And who knew later on in years I would get the security and working at the Waldorf and have my men working with them. So that was great.
I want to share a silly little story. So growing up, I'll be 62 in March, and growing up, Sugar Sugar, the song, Ron Dante,
Yes.
So who doesn't know that song, right? Well, I got to interview him, and I was this silly little, I was like giggling through the whole interview, and I'm going, "Come on, my sugar," and I was like, so I get it,
Now,
you know what I
which
mean?
song was this? I'm sorry, I didn't
This
get
was
the song.
Ron Dante, the song "Sugar Sugar." Ah, honey,
Sugar,
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 yeah.
right? I
Right,
was
right.
giggling. This was a couple years ago. I was giggling through the whole interview, going, "Okay, sugar, my sugar." So I get it, you know. I mean, we all have those people. Hey, did you ever meet Elvis?
I never met Elvis.
Okay.
I met so many people. He's one of the ones
Okay,
I
okay.
never even saw him. I never went to
Okay,
a show.
okay.
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I never met him.
Did you
I
have
met many stars.
Did you have a
Many.
favorite song growing up, or one that really?
What?
Did you have a favorite song growing up, or one that really resonates with you?
Uh, I liked all Sinatra songs. I
Okay.
was a big Bing Crosby fan too.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, I love music.
Okay.
Most of the ballads I loved. I'll
Okay.
Never Smile Again, I think, was my
Okay.
favorite at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. It's not funny, but it's just the way I am.
Yeah.
Here I am, I'm with Sinatra, right? Okay? I could speak to him, I talk to him if I had to. I'm a writer. I have about 300 or 400 songs that I wrote, 2 musicals.
Oh my
I
gosh.
never once said to him, Frank, will you listen to one of my songs? Never, never. Another thing, all the Robert De Niro movies, I had the security for. I used to call him Bobby. I mean, and here I am. He's doing all these movies. Never once did I say, "Here's my photo. Do you have a part for me?" I never,
Why?
ever,
Why?
because that's my nature.
My nature's the
Let me say
opposite.
this. Let me say this. Believe me, you'll understand. I had quite a few people. I had a roster of 300 men, mostly cops, but they didn't all work for me. You know, when I needed
Okay.
them, I had them. And I told them all, I says, you do not fraternize with the star. You do not ask for autographs. You do not ask to take pictures, and you address them as Mr. Sinatra. And that's what I did.
I'm the
Because
opposite.
I told my men that, and that's what I
No,
did. And
I-
that's the gospel truth.
I am just the opposite. I am that crazy lady that runs up to you and hugs you and is like, and they smile and giggle and they're like, all right, I'll sign it for you. Let me get a photo, hugs. Oh, no, no, and no. I go backstage at every event. I went backstage. They did an event in my town, this group, right? And I knew the owners forever here in Robbinsville. So I run in and I see the owner walking. I'm like, come on, which door? And he goes, all right, Joe, that door. I slammed the door open. I said, hello, boys. And they all smiled and gave me their photos. And I'm the opposite.
Well,
That's cool.
You know, Chas Palminteri, he got in with the De Niro, right, with his Bronx Tale. And in fact, I had the security for the Bronx Tale.
Oh, my
It was-
gosh.
Yeah, that was my job. I had the security for that. But let me say this. I have 12 screenplays that I wrote. 12. And I never once said to De Niro, can you look at one of my screenplays?
Okay.
Never. But that's, like I said,
If
maybe
you
that's
were-
why I'm still,
listen-
maybe that's why I'm sitting here, not in Hollywood.
Your son is listening because
Yes,
if I
he's
was
listening.
your child, they would have all been sent secretly.
No, my kids
man.
are all right.
No, I know. I'm teasing you.
I have
Listen.
2 sons, they're doing fine.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
teasing
great.
you, but I would have secretly sent them all for
But
you.
I don't know if you're aware, but my son was also NYPD.
So thank you for your service also, son.
And not only that, he was a boss. He had a big job.
Oh,
Very
okay.
big job. He handled this when the Secret Service called, the president was coming in, any president, he was the one that set up the whole detail for them to get to wherever they were going in the city. He has pictures with several presidents. And in addition to that, when he retired from the NYPD, the sign in Broadway, it said, thanks, Lieutenant Cirillo, for all your help. The
That's
sign in Broadway.
yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. That is
So
beautiful.
He really, my son really was big. He handled all the parades, every parade in the city, Columbus Day, St. Patty's Day, he handled that.
That is really cool.
He also, and he's still doing it, New Year's Eve in Times Square, he put that all together. Even now, he's on the payroll. They consult with him before they start that show every year, New Year's Eve. So
That
he's
is
still doing
amazing.
that. Yes.
I'm going to be at the border, and I haven't put this out publicly yet, but I can say it here. I'm going to be at the border in Yuma, Arizona,
Okay.
with Ruben, one of the owners of Hamilton Radio, and we're going to be covering, this gentleman is running for President of the United States as bipartisan,
Right.
okay? And we're going to be there with him. So we'll be talking about all that another time, but I would love to have your son hang out with us. That's really cool.
Actually, my son actually lives in North Carolina.
No, that's really
He's
cool.
He's up for now. He did a visit,
Yeah.
but he comes up quite a. And he, another thing, like you just said, meet you in Yuma. Talk to him because he has a job with JetBlue, so he can fly.
See, this is so cool. But I want
We'll
to,
talk in the future on that.
yes, we will. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yes.
Wow. So, all right. So now, let me see. What other silly question can I ask you?
Oh, I
Wait, I have one. I do have one. Okay.
go ahead.
So, did you ever play a cop in a movie or a show? Come on, let's hear it, because I saw some things
Did I
in your
ever
book.
play a cop?
Come on, I saw.
even played cop for mine.
That's right. I saw some things in your book. So let's
Yes.
talk about it.
Most of the time I played a cop.
Yep.
Like I was a detective in the Eyeshine series. I played cops with the Kojak series. A lot of movies. I did a movie with Charles Bronson. A couple of them. Where I
Oh,
was a cop.
please.
Death Wish.
Okay.
I was a cop in Death Wish. So most of the time I was a cop. If not a cop, mafia.
I was laughing because I'm going through your book and I'm like, did he only play cops? And the mafia, sure.
Right, and the one I was talking about that I had to go down to North Carolina to shoot, where I banged on the desk and I got the part. There, I was a tiger trainer in a circus.
Oh,
Actually, I had to go in the cage with the tiger.
I would love
They
that.
never told me this.
I would love
They
that.
never told me I had to be in a cage with a tiger. They said, you're going to be the lion trainer.
Tamer, lion tamer.
Tiger trainer. And they said, we're going to shoot. I said, am I going to be with the tigers? They said, no. You're not going to be in the cage with them. When we got down there, I was in the cage with them.
I would lay in the cage with the lion. Don't worry. That was awesome.
But anyway, when I was in the cage with the tiger, it was like 102 degrees. And I don't have anything but a chair in front of me. And so they said, no, the tiger's not doing anything. They got a big stick and start poking the tiger, like to aggravate the tiger. And I'm saying, I'm in the cage with a tiger. Nothing ever happened.
That's beautiful.
It worked out fine. But when you're working in film, I did stunts too. I did a lot of stunts. And some were very dangerous. I mean, I could have been killed in some of them. I could have been killed by the tiger.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if you could give everyone listening a word of encouragement, what would you say to them?
Perseverance. Just keep going for it. That's one thing I did. I'm my own publicist. I do everything myself. I try to reach out to people. Like I said, I help people. I try to reach out to them too. And I've been helped by a lot of people. I help them, they help me. And somebody wants to get into the business. It's a tough business, as you know. It's a very tough business to get into. But if you really go after it and keep going, keep trying, eventually it'll happen. I know it happened for me, so,
I would like to read a poem for you and
Go ahead.
everyone listening, because it's exactly about what you just said. So this is a poem in my book called Utilizing Gifts and Talents. Okay?
Go ahead.
We are born with talents, we are born with drive, with different gifts to help us thrive. I knew early on I was born to draw and paint, to also write poetry and to talk without restraint. Our gifts and talents should all be used, God's gift to us not be abused. We can go far in life for sure, using our gifts to go on tour. All our talents should be used to create ourselves and more, but then our job's to share them, to even up the score. You see, in life, what's needed is not just for ourselves. Once our gifts are mastered, take them off the shelves. A living we can make by spreading them around, not just for the money, but to spread a peaceful sound. Don't take for granted the gifts you're given. Go out and spread the joy. Our gifts are not to be held back for us to self-destroy. Put your efforts forth. Do not hesitate. All your talents, my friend, are never second rate. Never hold them back or you will surely die. Maybe not in body, but your soul will cry. Our gifts were made to share. Our talents made to soar. Go through life enlightened and then you can roar. Be proud of who you are. Be happy you're alive. Once again, my friend, your gifts will help you thrive. By putting efforts forth, not keeping them at bay, Joe Cirillo, your name will live forever, forever and a day. Go through life excited for what you sure can give to yourself and others is our reason to live. Our grave will be quite lonely, but our legacy lives on. So make sure people smile with the breaking dawn. And that's what you've done.
Great.
That's what you've
Wow,
done.
that's great. Thank you. That's
what
beautiful.
you've done. Thank you. That's
That's
what
me.
you've done. That's you. That's you.
Wow,
So
incredible.
we still have
Here
a
we just met. We
beautiful.
don't really know each other. Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
so we have a few minutes left. Is there anything
Yes.
that else that you would like to talk about that maybe we didn't touch base on?
No, we got most of it in. You know, I could go on for hours.
Well,
Actually,
if you have another
you know,
crazy
if I wanted to talk
story.
about if I wanted to talk about each person, I have different stories for different actors. Some are good, some are bad.
Well,
you know,
hold that. How about a bad one? All right, you don't have to even say
I'll
the
give you a
name.
bad one.
So let's have a bad one. Come on.
A real quick bad one.
All right.
I was working in a movie with Charles Bronson.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Okay. And what happened was I was supposed to be a cop that was shot in a hallway. So I'm standing with a group of actors, all police officers in uniform, you know, acting police. And the director comes over and he says, "You, come here." And I said, "Yes, director." He says, "I want you to go over here and buy the car." And I said, "Oh, no, I can't." He says, I'm the director. You do what I tell you." I said, "Okay." So he said to me, "You're going to go to the car. Mr. Bronson is going to pull up. You're going to open the door. Mr. Bronson's going to come out of the car. And then after he comes out, you shut the door." I said, "Okay." So car pulls up. I open the door. He goes out. And all of a sudden, I hear, "Cut, cut." And then he said, "Let's do it again." Same thing. Same scene. He comes up. I open the door. He comes out. And I cut. The director comes screaming. He said, "You effing dummy." And Bronson says, "You effing dummy." They're both screaming at me. I said, "What's the matter?" They said, "Mr. Bronson is taking his hat off and he's got to throw it back in the car." They never told me this. You know, I leaned in and talked to the driver. So he called me an effing dummy.
I don't like that. That's a bad story. You're right.
That's what I'm saying. And what happened was he walked away. They both walked away. And then I went back with the cops and I said, "Wow, you should have said something." I said, "I'm not going to say nothing. You know, you won't work anymore." So I kept quiet. And the director comes down and he said, "Where's my cop that gets shot?" And I says, I walked up and "That's me." And he says, "Oh, we very well can't use you." And that was it. Now, from that incident, Telly Savalas was a good friend of Charlie Bronson. And Charles Bronson was one of my favorite actors.
Yes.
And I told him the whole story. And he said, "Joe, don't worry about it." He says, "It's all forgotten." He says, Charlie Bronson's a great guy." So I just forgave him. That was it. But that actually happened.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that was on the movie, yeah, with Charles Bronson. So,
Well-
like I said, a lot of good stories, a lot of bad stories, you know.
Wow.
And I could go on and on and on and on. And there are a lot of people that are not even in my book. So,
Okay. So one more question about that then. Tell me one person that's not in your book and why. Come on.
some of them I really can't say,
Okay.
but I've seen things like that. So
Okay, I get it.
won't go into,
So
you know,
now-
I won't go into that.
Okay.
But there's others that I just omitted for some reason
Okay.
without thinking and say, "Oh, I forgot I did security for
Okay.
that person," you know.
I got it.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, believe me, I've been with, my goodness, almost every big star
Amazing.
in Hollywood. You know, I've been one way or another, whether it be working with them or working in a movie with them or doing security, personal security. Yes. I
What-
did security with Barbara Streisand. You know, we had Streisand, but I love Barbara. My son loved Barbara. So I had my sons working with me with Barbara Streisand
okay.
in the movie Nuts as her security.
Okay.
And she was great, but
Okay.
the actors hated her.
I was, oh my gosh, I'm listening to you, and I was going to say, I've heard a lot of different stories about her.
Right, they hated her.
Okay.
And what happened was, we were doing one of the last scenes in the movie Nuts, where she's leaving the courthouse and she's walking downtown area in New York. You know what that's like. And we had lots of extras, extras. And what happened was, she just stopped the shooting and she started yelling at them. She says, "You're professionals. What are you doing? You're ruining the scene. You're looking at me. You're coming over to me." She was totally right. That's what they were doing. They were ruining the scene. And so she let them know it. And then she told them to continue. And then we can hear them in the back, "Oh, what a bitch this." But she was 100% right.
Well, Elvis was supposed to be in that movie with her. And the colonel said no because she wanted all the billing.
Well,
Okay.
I listen, my experience was great with her.
Good.
I loved being with
Good.
her. Then again, you know, when you're somebody's security, I guess they like you a little more than
there
the
you go.
average person. That could be part of it.
So, Joe,
Yeah.
before we close, I want to share something, and then I want you to share something very important. So, everybody out there, I didn't write my book till I was in my 50s. I did not start any of this, interviewing, radio shows, nothing, until right after I wrote my book. I was interviewed on Hamilton Radio and asked to come along. And because of that, I ended up on 5 networks all over the world with 18 million listeners. I got an award in the Hall of Fame. I'm saying all that to say this. You're never, ever, ever too old. Never think you are. So the reason why this show is so important to me is because I love, love, love interviewing actors and singers, legends, authors that never allow their age to interfere with their success. Joe, I'm going to ask you to please share with everyone, because it's in your book, so you're an open book now, baby, how old you are.
In my book, I say I found the fountain of youth. That's my last line. Anyway, I will, hopefully, if God willing, I will be 92 in September.
Well, thank you for answering that, because first of all, you look honestly 75.
Thank you.
You act 65, okay? You are incredible, absolutely amazing, and to me, one of the greatest legends. And I want to thank you for honoring me here today on Hamilton Radio with this beautiful interview. And I want to thank you for this amazing, incredible book that I will cherish forever.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
My honor to be on your show.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. And
All
our
right.
mutual friend, Frank,
Right?
Frank Marotta, give him a shout out because he's the one who introduced us.
Right, exactly.
And I'll be
I
interviewing
will be
him.
speaking to him.
Okay, cool. I'll be interviewing him as well for his book, so that'll all be out there as well, guys.
Right.
And thank you again, Joe. I am honored. Yes.
Just one thing.
Yep.
You got 1 second before we leave.
Yeah.
You didn't read the whole book. You're going to
Nope.
read about a certain actor that I wrote a song for.
Okay.
And he sang this song that was incredible. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
His name was Bob Petito.
Bob Petito?
Yes.
Okay.
When you read it,
Yes.
I don't want to go into it.
Okay.
When you read it, you'll see it. Bob Petito. That was his name.
You don't want to go into it, or you think because we don't have
No, I'm
time?
not gonna
Okay.
go- you
Then
read
all right,
it.
I'll read it. I will
Yeah,
read it.
it's a nice thing, but I'd
Thank
rather
you.
you read it.
I will
okay?
read it. Thank you, Joe, and I will reach out to you once I read it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Ruben, take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is it really true? Is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.